All right, Tsunami Swami. You want a little catching analysis? Here you go. We had the cameras rolling while we were hitting, trying to catch some of our hitters, and of course we got the opposing catcher on film as well, who happens to be Cole Swami's son. I noticed him early on. He was blocking everything up and had a nice quick release and asked Swami where the heck they got that new catcher from. And he said it was his boy. So, he really looked good back there. From what I understand, doesn't have a whole lot of experience, but did a really good job back there that day. Scott, what I've done here is I've synced everything up to release. In other words, they're releasing all these at the same time. This is a guy that I've worked with that's been up and down from the big leagues, Luke Carlin. Um, was a smaller player, 5'11", 5'10", but stayed around a long time, partly because of great defense and great throwing action. Another quick point of reference to take note of is that Cole receives the pitch ahead of our professional. Again, Cole on the left there has already got both pitches in his glove, and then our professional receives them later. Again, yet they do release the ball at the same time. So what does that mean? Simply means that of course the professional's taking less time to get rid of the ball, which again, that's common sense. Of course, that's going to happen. But again, that's kind of important to set up in terms of just time and frame of reference. That's all. All right, the first thing I like to talk about with Cole is his throwing action, which is, one of the first things I noticed, and it really is outstanding. The way he gets the ball out of the glove is the most effective and efficient way to do it. Basically, what we want there is the elbow to lift, but that ball is going to stay right about shoulder height. And if you look at our professional there, and again, Luke has just outstanding throwing mechanics. You can see how the ball right there. So what's really going on here, and again, not to get too biomechanical here, but that bone in the upper arm is lifting and it's turning in, it's kind of winding up. Okay, and that really is just an outstanding position. Scott, don't let anybody mess with how he's getting the ball out of the glove. Okay, one little difference that you see is that you see how the ball's facing here, and so his hand, as that bone's kind of turning in, his wrist is kind of turning with it. Which, you know what, I don't even think I would touch it right now because it's giving him good action and kind of getting that upper arm wound up. You can kind of see there, if you kind of look at that, if you kind of feel that, you can see how that hand is turning and winding up. It's kind of helping with that bone right now. I mean, ultimately, you want to feel like your fingers are kind of staying on top of the ball here, and there's a little less activity in that hand. We still want that bone winding up. You can maybe see a little bit better here, Carlin, on the bottom, how that bone's lifting and is turning in, it's winding up, but that hand is staying on top a little more, whereas Cole's hand is kind of getting, it's turning a little much with the bone. But you know what, Scott? Right now at this point, I don't think I'd touch that. That really is where you want. You don't want kids as they get the ball out of the glove to start straightening that arm. You want that arm bent as that bone in the upper arm kind of winds up. To prepare to throw. A lot of people will teach, to kind of bring the ball up to the ear out of the glove. And really that's kind of getting the ball up prematurely. What should happen is that as you get here, as the back leg drives towards the target, then the ball begins to turn past the ear at that point. Again, looking at our professional there. So we get the ball out of the glove, we're here. Then as the back leg drives, the ball gets past the ear there and then lays back. So again, looking at our professional here in the bottom right as he throws to third, this really is the best way to get the ball out of the glove. This kind of bow and arrow position. Very important that the back elbow stay bent throughout this phase. Staying really flexed at the elbow, that we don't get extension at the elbow. And again, basically, the bone lifts up, the elbow lifts up here, the ball staying right at the shoulder, and then as that leg drives towards the target, that's when the ball gets up and turns past our ear and lays back. Okay, so again, Cole, very very effective at how he's getting the ball out of the glove. I don't even think I'd mess with him at this point. Um, maybe after he gets a little more comfortable behind the plate, you might start telling, hey, try to keep your fingers on top of the ball instead of letting them get onto the side. But that's, very good right there. Okay, as the throw progresses, you can see both Professional and Cole, as they drive towards the target, the bone begins to start turning in the other direction as it lays back. So, as he gets out of the glove, it turns in. As it begins to lay back, it turns out. But the thing you'll notice is how nice and flexed he stays here. He's keeping it less than 90 degrees, less than 90 here from our Professional. As again, it goes past the ear and lays back there. Okay, so the action of lifting, out of the glove by the ear and then letting it lay back, that looks very good. Now, you start to notice a difference here, and this is very common with younger throwers as compared to professionals. You start to see the elbow get out front here as opposed to here. Okay, again, this is very common. He's, very common for younger players to rush the arm out there, which, again, is, from a general perspective, means that he's gonna put a little more stress on the arm that way, because the arm is kind of rushing out front, and he hasn't really allowed the rest of his body to kind of build up energy to deliver to the throwing arm. So, how do we fix it? What does that mean? I think the best way to fix this is to let the player know that he wants to try to keep that elbow, behind his head through release. Now, it's going to wind up being right at the ear, right in this position here. But if the player has a feeling that, he's trying to, keep that elbow behind him, then we're going to accomplish our goal of letting the lower half get its work done before the arm gets too involved, too far out front. Again, you really see it right here. If he could, focus on having this elbow, just back behind him at this point, and Cole probably needs to think about, maybe getting over the top, maybe just a hair more with what he's doing. As he releases, this is another interesting thing just to note. That hand works straight through the ball. But then after we release, that hand's going to pronate. Our hand always turns outward through release. Doesn't matter what pitch you're throwing or what position you're playing. You're gonna pronate through release. But Scott, the only thing that I would say to him right now about his throwing action would be, hey, keep that elbow behind you a little bit more. You really want this arm bent as it's going past the ear, and Cole's in a real good position here with good flexion as he's going through it. Then you can kind of see at this point, you see how the Professional's elbow will stay back behind him at this point, whereas Cole begins to rush it forward. Okay, so really the cue of keeping the elbow behind you at that point, I think is about the only thing I'd tell him with regard to his arm action. Sometimes telling a kid something can negatively affect the things he's doing well. So the out of the glove is outstanding. Just let's not rush the elbow. Keep the elbow behind you and try to release, on top of your head, over your head, instead of this far out front. Again, if you look at the release point here, we get a nice smooth line right through the top of his head, whereas you can see the difference. If we were to draw the same line through Cole's head, you can see how far that hand is out front. And it, again, it starts, he lays back well. There's good outward rotation or rotation to kind of lay back this this catapult effect here. We're getting good turn, and that ball really is laying back there nice, but he's bringing the elbow forward. And again, this is very common in youth players. And then that elbow really kind of leading there. Okay, so he's rushing the arm out front. Arm compensates and doesn't get the energy that it could have gotten, from the lower half. So keep the elbow back. Try to release the ball over your head, not this far up front.